God is at work everywhere. It's such a simplistic theological concept, right? Like where we know God is at work in our life and our friends' life, but to imagine that He's at work and almost exactly halfway across the world, but also in a people group that He's been at work at for thousands and thousands of years before our country even existed.
Welcome to another episode of Journey of Hope, Heart for Lebanon's podcast, where we bring you stories of change and discipleship happening in the country of Lebanon. I'm your host, Elio Constantine, and today we have a special guest, Pastor Jeff Henry of Lake Hills Church here in Western North Carolina. Pastor Jeff is the executive pastor at Lake Hills, and that is not just a Heart for Lebanon partner, but also where I go to church with my family. We love you, Jeff, and we love the church, and we've had a great year. It's been almost a year since we moved to Western North Carolina. I've been going to church, and we just feel like home. And today, speaking of home, we have a special episode where we talk about trips back to my home, back to Lebanon, trips with Heart for Lebanon as churches. We do trips to the Ministry of Heart for Lebanon, to the country of Lebanon, where you get to experience and see the life-changing transformations that are happening on the field. You get to meet the team of Heart for Lebanon. You get to meet the families, share meals with them, pray with them, have fellowship with them, and help the team serve those families as well through all the initiatives and programs we have, whether it's our educational program, you get to hang out with the students and the teachers, the food program, you get to pack the food portions and help the team with that, Bible studies and church and everything else. It is just an awesome experience, I think, for anyone who has the chance to come with their church over to Lebanon, do it. And the exciting news is we are resuming trips this year, starting April, May of this year. I know it's a little early, but any of our listeners who are interested, talk to your pastor, talk with your church, reach out to us, and we would love to have you come to Lebanon. Pastor Jeff, thank you so much for being with me today. You and I actually met when I picked you up from the airport in Beirut when you were on your first trip to Lebanon.
Yeah,
And
that's
then,
right. I was a little disappointed though when you picked me up. I was hoping you'd be holding a sign that said, special honored guest, Jeff Henry, but really all I had was your avatar from your profile on your phone.
but how accurate is my avatar?
It's spot on. Mine
I,
is never as good as yours. Yeah, I can't believe it's been 2 or 3 years ago when
think it's been
whenever we
three
first
years.
met.
How does experiencing Lebanon firsthand change your perspective as a Christian from the West regarding global missions and challenges faced by other communities, especially in that area of the world?
That's a really great question. I think for me, when I first had boots on the ground here at my church, I had heard a lot about Heart for Lebanon. I'd heard the story of how it started with several of the founders, the couple of the founders. I'd heard people taking trips. I'd read the website. I had followed the Instagram page. I had seen the visuals of what was going on, but it still didn't click. Like I can appreciate the ministry, but for me, I needed to see it for myself. I needed to walk with my boots on the ground in Beirut. Um, I needed to go to the Bekaa. I needed to see people. I needed to meet people, and it completely changed the way that I see the ministry. It gave me a new appreciation, honestly, for meeting everyone who leads the ministry in the South, in the Bekaa, in Beirut, to meet people who are in charge of filling the feeding bags, who are in charge of organizing people, to meet the guy who takes pictures and the lady who does the Instagram, and you really makes a really large impact ministry feel very much like a family. So I would say like that is one of the things that go on firsthand. You meet people and you learn their name and you learn their story and you experience the energy and the passion that they bring to the ministry, and it changed for me the way I think about Heart for Lebanon.
Now, we've said this to many of our partners that we don't need boots on the ground, and we get misunderstood. And let me explain it for a second. We don't need boots on the ground in Lebanon because we're 85 plus staff there, and the operation is running, logistics is running, Bible studies are happening, school is in session, kids programs are happening, and everything is going like clockwork, if that's the right word. So when we have service teams over, it's not because we need the extra hand, it's because we need that spiritual support that is so essential and that we're so missing a lot right now on the field. And that's why we're excited to resume trips. We need that spiritual support and we need that twofold impact, meaning that we as a team, as a ministry, as families get impacted by the visitors, and the visitors as well, you get impacted as you leave back home. So, how do you see that translated from your personal experience? How do you see that played? How did you see that played out?
Let me just first off start by saying that I just commend the organization of Heart for Lebanon in their organizational structure. There are people in roles that is very well put together, levels of leadership, supervision. There is a lot of people working for the organization. In fact, it's overwhelming to see the number of staff that are there, scurrying around and doing things in all kind of areas. So you're right. I think they don't need extra set of hands. And I'll even steal a word from the title of your organization. They need heart. They need shared heart. You know, you mentioned coming from the West, and it's such a unique culture to learn about. In fact, it's taken me a couple of trips and honestly a lot of coffees with you to continue to learn about life in the East and what God is doing in the Middle East through His people. It's such because it spans so much of creation, more than our little history here in the West is such a baby compared to the Middle East. But for me, I wanted to learn. Like I wanted to go and learn, and we know that there's no better learning experience than seeing it, than it's tactile. You learn about it with your ears, you see it with your eyes, you touch it with your hands, kind of kinesthetic. Like all of these things go together in such a conglomeration of a learning experience. So for me, it wasn't really about just what could I do to help you, but it was let me come alongside you. Sometimes when we think about missions, is what can I do with my hands to give to you? But I think for the work that God is doing there, it's more so like, hey, let me come alongside you and support you by learning with my mind, by engaging with my heart. So I'm learning about the people that are leading. I'm learning about the people that they're serving. I'm learning heartfelt stories, hard stories of what a life as a refugee looks like, a people group that have no home, to be displaced, to be an alien in another country, to be in such need that you are reliant upon someone else. Like I needed to feel that side by side. And then I think the biggest thing for me that I experienced was, and that I wanted to be a part of, was a spiritual connection. We serve under the same God. We are all children, sons and daughters of the King, but I wanted to join spiritually along with my brothers and sisters. And in that, I wanted to pray for them. I wanted to pray for the leaders. I wanted to ask face to face how I could pray for you, learn about your family. And so there are many times that I will remember a leader, or I'll see them on a social media post, and I will pray for them by name. And I will go back to my book where I took notes, and I will remind myself of their family's name and children's name, and I will lift them up. And some I'll even message on WhatsApp and go, hey, I was thinking about you today, and I just want to tell you I love you, and I'm praying for you. That threefold connection, the head, the learning, the heart, the passion, and the spiritual, for me, made it an important trip, made it worth going to see that and learn that and really be a part of the ministry.
Thank you for sharing that, Jeff. We'll come back to this conversation in a minute, but first I want you to listen to the story of Falak. her life-changing transformation, and know that when you go to Lebanon, you're going to experience and witness and be around stories like that firsthand. Let's give it a listen.
My name is Falak. I live in Karak. Last month, when the bombings fell close to us, I moved to a school-turned-shelter in a safer area in Bekaa. I'm divorced and my children are with me. I work to raise them and provide for them. I have a long and difficult history with my former husband. To summarize, he was extremely abusive towards us, both emotionally and physically. His violence escalated to a point where he held my 20-year-old daughter's head and repeatedly slammed it against the wall. He threatened her, saying, "I will electrocute you and kill you, and then I will tell everyone that you committed suicide." I endured a great deal of abuse, but when he threatened the safety of my children, that was it. I made the decision to leave him. I met the team at Heart for Lebanon and started attending Bible studies. They were very beneficial for my life, and I want to continue delving deeper into the Bible. This motivated me to read the Bible regularly. Everything happens for a reason, and God is in control. My faith in Jesus gave me hope. God saw that my 5 children and I were struggling to survive, and He did not abandon us. God protects the vulnerable and the oppressed. When the bomb hit close to our house in Karak, we were running for our lives. All the way I was praying to Jesus to protect us and not let any of my children die. He listened to my prayers and protected us through the horror. Every single woman, no matter how strong she is, feels like breaking down every once in a while. But faith gives her the strength to continue.
Thank you so much for listening to Falak's story. And Jeff, after listening to this story, what do you think is the overall impact on the team that went with you? What would you say was the impact on them as they came back home? What was different?
Everybody on the team was so surprised at how much we have in common with people who live in such a different place. It's a worldwide theme, right? That we're all more alike than we are different, though separated by a massive ocean and a different culture and a really challenging language barrier for a lot of people. We're the same. We're all looking for identity. We're all looking for security. We're all searching for the meaning of our life. And we all look at the same stars at night and wonder what else is out there. And is there really a God that loves me and that is for me? And that there was a humanity aspect there. Before you even get to maybe the Christian heart behind it, there was just a humanity of our team sitting in a cafe, in a restaurant having dessert, and we're the only non-Middle Eastern people there. And to be surrounded by people who are laughing, that are showing each other pictures on their Instagram and giggling, and we're again learning about people. That was the first thing I think that I would recall from our trip, our team, just the normalizing humanity in people. I think the other thing that was impactful for our team is that God is at work everywhere. It's such a simplistic theological concept, right? Like where we know God is at work in our life and our friends' life, but to imagine that He's at work and almost exactly halfway across the world, but also in a people group that He's been at work at for thousands and thousands of years before our country even existed. It's a story of His redemptive plan from His promises in Scripture that we go back and read beginning in Genesis as to His people. And so for our team, just the fact that God is working in a different place was really incredible. I think the last thing, and I don't know how else to say it, but just it changed the way that our team viewed people different from themselves. It was one of these experiences where you are with a native of Lebanon and you're sitting in a home of someone who is a Syrian refugee, and you've learned the history of the conflict. You've learned the history of generations who have been at war and at tension with each other. But now you've got an extended hand with help, an extended spiritual connection with people that don't deserve it from the world's eyes, but from a Christian, they deserve it because of the eyes that we have of Christ, to see through his lens, to see them as created beings who have a purpose and a hope, and that hope is in Jesus. And that was the most impactful thing for our team when they came back, was to begin to think about people different from them. Maybe not another culture, maybe not a different, a generational tension, but somebody who believes different than us. And for instance, I have a guy on my team who works in a factory, and he works with a lot of people that are adversaries, maybe that are maybe this is the right word, that are different belief systems than him, that are adversarial to Christians. And he has embraced his friendships with them, his relationships with them, because of his interaction and watching that to a bigger degree from watching Heart for Lebanon love the least of these.
Jeff, let me ask you one last question before we wrap this up. Maybe two more questions. How does it happen from a logistical, organizational point of view? Coming to Lebanon, what did you experience leading up to your trip?
The trip was actually so easy. You book your travel, you get there, but once you're in country, a wonderful Heart for Lebanon staffer will come meet you at the airport with your team. They take care of all in-country stuff, the drivers, translators, all the accommodations are so comfortable, and I felt safe the entire time that I was there. We had incredible food. We had a day of sightseeing where we saw some really incredible places I would have never seen, probably on my own. Some biblically significant places, which changed the way that I see some things in the Old Testament. I'll never see cedarwood the same again, but no, the organization did a great job of taking care of us. I found the experience to be completely smooth, and I look forward to going back in the future.
Lebanon is biblically significant. There are so many places in Lebanon that are referenced in the Bible, especially the cedars of Lebanon, the most famous, mentioned over 70 times in the Bible. They're there, they're in the country. You might get the chance to see them when you go there, along with several other significant sites that are in the Bible. But I think the most important question to you, Jeff, is why is the Lebanese food the best food on planet Earth?
Oh, Elio, you're speaking my love language
With
here.
all modesty.
Listen, Lebanese food is the most elevated of the Middle Eastern food cuisines. If you take the technicality of French cooking and the French influence, along with the robust and savory spices of the Middle East, and you marry them, their child that they have is Lebanese food. And you may say, well, I've had hummus before. No, you have not. Okay. You may think you have, but you haven't. You may have had tabbouleh, but you haven't had it like this. I love the food. In fact, I think I gained weight both trips that I went. I just could not stop eating immaculate flavors. I have dreams about this ice cream dessert. I think you know what I'm talking about. It's
Yes.
like a sugar, it's like cotton candy.
Yes.
That's on top of like a rosewater cotton candy on top of ice cream with maybe pistachios sprinkled on it. And it's divine.
I mean, I'm going there in a couple of weeks, and I think that's going to be the first thing I eat when I'm there.
Can you bring me back some?
I will. Great. The ice cream will come back as soup, but I'll bring it back.
The food really is top notch, and I do in all sincerity, I think with a lot of things in Lebanon, it comes with passion, and they're passionate about their country. Lebanese are passionate about their food, and really dinners are a long process there. It's definitely an investment of time. It's an event, and it's one that I look forward to every time I go.
And imagine all the Lebanese passion to food and unfortunately to politics, and any argument when there are two Lebanese people talking, it's going to get heated real quick. Imagine all that passion. The team at Heart for Lebanon is that passionate and more to the work of the kingdom and to their love for our Lord, and to just loving on people and making Jesus known. They're even more passionate about that. So thank you so much, Jeff, for this episode today, for your time. And thank you, our listener, for being our biggest supporter and biggest encouragement. Without you, this podcast would not exist. So please share this podcast, share this episode with your friends, with your family. Don't forget to send us your comments or your questions to podcast@heartforlebanon.org. If you have any prayer requests, we will pray for you. On every Monday, our team meets and we pray for all our partners. So go to heartforlebanon.org/prayer and sign up to our prayer ministry. We will send you our prayer requests and we will pray for you as well. And most importantly, we want you to come on a trip to Lebanon with your church. So reach out to your pastor, reach out to your church, and let us know, and we'll make it happen. And until next time, God is with you. Allah ma'akum.